Recall the structure of Daniel 9:24 through 27. Daniel 9's 70 weeks. The transgression of desolation of Daniel 8:13. The 2300 days and the 70 weeks. Are they connected? Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint, which spake, How long shall be the vision concerning the daily and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot? And he said unto me, Unto 2300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. Daniel 8:13 and 14. 2300 days. Here's our 2300 days timeline. We don't know when it starts, and we don't know when it ends. How long the vision concerning the transgression of desolation? And the answer is 2300 days. So we put the transgression of desolation as part of our 2300 days timeline. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city, to finish the transgression, and to make an end of sins, and to make reconciliation for iniquity. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the war desolations are determined. And for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. Daniel 9:24 through 27. 70 weeks. Here's our 70 weeks timeline. We don't know when it starts, and we don't know when it ends. Actually, we do know when the 70 weeks starts. It starts in 457 BC, as we saw earlier, with the decree of Artaxerxes giving self-government to the Jews in Jerusalem. 70 weeks. To finish the transgression, make an end of sins, make reconciliation for iniquity. So we put transgression as part of our 70 weeks timeline. During the 70 weeks, the Jews rebel against the Seleucid Empire, a Hellenistic kingdom descended from one of Alexander the Great's generals, Seleucus I. This takes place in 168 BC. They set up the Maccabean monarchy, which loses its independence when Pompey comes in 63 BC and makes it a dependent kingdom under Rome. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance shall stand up. Daniel 8:23. The transgressors are, of course, the Jews. Recall that the king of fierce countenance is the little horn of the north, Rome in the person of Pompey. The kingdom is, of course, the kingdom of the Maccabees, which we said arose out of Alexander the Great's former empire, a horn from the he-goat. The 70 weeks of probation for the Jewish nation, upon thy people to finish transgression, come to an end in 34 AD. 7 years prior to this, in 27 AD, the Messiah, Christ, is anointed, then dies a sacrificial death after 3.5 years, in the midst of the week in 30 AD. The last 3.5 years, AD 30 to 34, is God's final attempt to reach the Jewish nation and encompasses the time period from Christ's resurrection to the stoning of Stephen and the going of the gospel to the Gentiles through the Apostle Paul. Desolations are determined. He shall make it desolate. That determined shall be poured upon the desolate. The city and the sanctuary are destroyed. As we saw when studying the chiasm of Daniel 9:24 through 27, the transgression as well as the sin and iniquity of verse 24a are inseparably linked to the desolations desolate and desolate of verses 26b and 27b. The desolation of the Jewish nation is a direct result of the transgression, sin, iniquity of that nation. The desolation of the Jewish nation, which occurs after the close of the 70 weeks of probation, occurs in two phases. First, the temple and city are destroyed in 70 AD during the Great Revolt of 66 to 73 AD, and then the nation is destroyed as a result of the Bar Kokhba revolt of 132 through 136 AD, when the practice of the Jewish faith is forbidden. The Judean communities are extensively depopulated and the Jews become a minority there. Judea is renamed Syria Palestina, and Jerusalem is re-established as the Roman pagan polis of Aelia Capitolina, with a temple to Jupiter taking the Jewish temple's previous place on the Temple Mount, and Jews barred from entering it, except on the day of Tisha B'Av. Recall that we previously saw this destruction in Daniel 8:9 as the little horn which waxed exceeding great toward the pleasant land, the west horn, as well as in Daniel 8:23 and 24, the angelic interpretation of Daniel 8:9, as the king of fierce countenance, whose power shall be mighty, but not by his own power, who shall destroy wonderfully, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. But the desolation of the nation is a delayed desolation. For Jesus declared in 30 AD, just prior to his crucifixion, "Behold, your house is left unto you desolate." Matthew 23:38. The underlying Hebrew makes it clear that the transgression and desolation of the Jewish nation, that is the 70-week prophecy, is the transgression of desolation of the 2,300 days, and so is part of that prophecy. How long shall be the vision concerning the transgression of desolation? Unto 2,300 days. Since we have a starting point for the 70 weeks, it would seem logical that this also is the starting point for the 2,300 days. Determined. Hebrew, ka, thak. A primitive root, properly to cut off. Strong's Hebrew Dictionary. The 70 weeks is cut off from the 2,300 days. That is, it is part of it. The 2,300 days comes to an end in 1844, when the sanctuary is cleansed, or more precisely begins to be cleansed.